All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Wednesday, April 9th. We have a 10-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays. So when I'm actually rolling with myself, if that does interest you, it's absolutely free down in the pinned comment. Alright, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4 more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. In terms of yesterday, man, oh man, and I'm talking about the Timberwolves here, we have had some bad looks and bad situations when riding with teams that are in like must-win situations. You know what I mean? It happened with the Nuggets. Now it's happened with the Timberwolves. Like, am I the jinx? The Timberwolves in a huge game last night, we had a -4.5. They lose outright to the Bucks, and Timberwolves sitting as the 8th seed now. There's so much volatility going on between, I would even throw in the Lakers into the mix, the 3 seed all the way down to the 8 seed. Things in 2 days could be absolutely shaken up and look entirely different. And the Timberwolves just needed to get that win against a Bucks squad, and they couldn't do it. Now, we did cash the Hornets team total under, but that thing was juiced through the moon. So ultimately, yeah, not exactly the best day. This is such a volatile time in the NBA season. I know I sound like a broken record saying that because I've been telling you guys. We went on the 7-0 run, and now since the 7-0 run, we are like 1-2. Which is, I mean, still okay if you look at it from that. We've had a decent season, right? But right now we might start lessening these 0.5 unit plays down to quarter unit plays and kind of save that bankroll for the playoffs. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. But it is just tough to see some of these spots in which you'd think the Timberwolves are going to play 110% and all that, and we don't get that, you know what I mean? So bad look there, bad read. I guess the Hornets team total under, that was a good look, but ultimately Timberwolves being the bigger play of the night. They lose by like 7, right? That was a tough one, and they were down, the Bucks were down like 20 points, so I'm just shocked to see that happens as they blow a lead in the fourth quarter. But let's go ahead and forget about that and move on to bigger and better things, including today's slate, but also the ride of the day from Sandy here. Let's pump in some crowd noise. Let's drop the cha-ching here. Lou Dort over 9.5 points plus assists. I think he had, 17 points? We didn't need the assist. Lou Dort went absolutely off yesterday, so shout out to Sandy. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day or ROTD down in the comments. Drop your favorite play. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. We give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to ride with your plays until you lose. So looking forward to seeing what Sandy drops today. Just got to be with inside -150 to qualify. If it's a too juiced of a play, we can't have the community to ride with it, that type of thing, right? But overall, if you win, we continue to ride your plays. If you lose, you do get the shout out in the next video. But unfortunately, we got to talk about it, and it's, I guess, a negative shout out. If you're interested in seeing what the ride of the day is each and every day and riding with it, riding with the community, just check out my Twitter/X. It'll be popping up here throughout the show at FGuyBoston. And it's also posted with the final plays on the Guy Boston Sports site if you do want to check there. Again, that link is down in the pinned comment. But shout out to Sandy. Let's see what you got today, and let's go ahead and jump into today's NBA slate. Not dump into it, all right? Let's go ahead and jump into it, guys. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Keep in mind the situations of these teams as we close out the season because, for example, game 1 here, we have Washington taking on Philly. This does not matter for either squad. Dead last Washington in the East, the 13th seed in the East, Philadelphia. Really, there's nothing much that I want to go towards in this game. I would say Washington because they're the home team, because why not? But ultimately, all analytics for me are out the window in this game. I don't really envision myself even diving into it. The total, I would say an under could be in play just due to the fact that both teams are so offensively non-efficient, you know what I mean? One spot that I actually could convince myself, the longer I look at it, would be Jordan Poole over 15.5 points or over 2.5 threes. My concern with him, and it's a decent-sized concern, is he's not playing that many minutes, right? He gets the start, but in his last few games here, 19 minutes, 26 minutes, 24 minutes, 29 minutes, 21, 25, like he hasn't even breached that 30-minute mark really in forever. So asking for a guy to go out there and score without playing the minutes is tough. Luckily, his line is at 15.5. His 3-point line is at 2.5. So Jordan Poole is a consideration for me, but it might stop at a consideration. This game is an absolute crapshoot. Next up, Orlando taking on Boston. So Boston's coming off of a win yesterday against the Knicks. Orlando's coming off of a win yesterday against Atlanta. So both teams on a back-to-back. Boston ended up suiting up everybody yesterday, and they played a decent amount of minutes. Tatum played 47 minutes. Porzingis played nearly 40 minutes. I think Jaylen Brown only played a little bit with his knee issue. Derek White played 43. Drew Holiday played 37. No Al Horford again tonight, or at least he wasn't yesterday. I don't expect him to play tonight. And look at this line, right? Orlando minus 5.5. Something's telling me that we are probably going to see a B team version of this Celtics squad. I'd be pretty damn surprised if Tatum played again, after playing all those minutes. Again, he played 47 minutes out of a game that, yes, it went to overtime, but in theory, 47 minutes out of a game that is built of 48 minutes, right? Went to overtime. They had a little bit extra time. That's why. But still, crazy amount of minutes. And Orlando, like I said, on a back-to-back as well. Their starters also did kind of get some run. Nothing like what we saw from the Celtics. But I would say based on this line, Orlando's guys are most likely playing. Celtics are not. So I guess it's an Orlando minus 5.5 spot for me. This game probably means actually a little bit more to Orlando anyways. They're only, I want to say it's either 1 or 2, actually probably 2 now after beating Atlanta, who they were competing for in the 7th and 8th spot. They're now the 7th seed, or they were the 7th seed, but now they've kind of given themselves some separation. They probably care about this one a little bit more as well. And obviously, if the Celtics are trotting out their B team, we don't really know exactly what to expect. I mean, Peyton Pritchard's very good. You have Hauser, Cornette, Schneider, whatever the heck his name is. So, I mean, yeah, if you like some of those guys for player props, I don't necessarily hate it. But this is a game in which obviously smells like a trap. You look at that and people that aren't aware of either the Celtics playing last night or the injury report, they're going to be Celtics plus the points, underdogs, let's go. Not for me today. Probably sticking away from this one. I don't mind the idea of an under, though. The Celtics obviously have a good defense, and I do think that Orlando's defense is obviously legit. And if Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Porzingis, if these guys don't play, you're missing quite literally like 80 points, and maybe a bare minimum that you would be getting consistently out of this team. I'm not saying all those guys aren't playing, but, the more and more that aren't playing, the more and more you have that consistent offense going away. And I don't want to just rely on, Peyton Pritchard and Hauser to bang a bunch of threes against a decent perimeter defense in Orlando. So though 208 is low, I still think I lean slightly towards the over here. And then no player props, just due to the fact that we have so many injuries in this one and 2 different back-to-backs on both sides. All right, before we move on to the next game, I want to talk to you about sleeper picks because they have a 0.5 point line for Steph Curry tonight. Imagine being able to see Steph Curry, one of, if not the best shooter of all time, at 0.5 points. You can get that today as a new user over on Sleeper. And imagine hearing that and being like, that's not the best deal. Play $5 as a new customer, get $55. What an absolute no-brainer. Check out the link down in the description as well as the pinned comment. Sleeper, like I tell you guys, is one of, if not my favorite app out there for DFS player props. All you have to do is pick more or less based on their player set projection. You put 2 or more into an entry. The more you win, the more you end up getting paid out. And payouts is the specific reason why I fell in love with Sleeper a couple years ago. They have dynamic payouts. They don't follow a fixed payout structure like 2 for 2 is 3x or anything like that. No. Each and every play you throw into your slip will change that payout dynamically. Really, really cool, guys. And again, play $5, get 55, 11x that bad boy just by placing an entry. What if you hit that entry? You get that payout too, right? So you get a little bit of a bankroll over in Sleeper. So go ahead and check it out, guys. That link will be down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment, or just use code GUYBOSTON. Let's jump back into the rest of these games. All right, Toronto taking on Charlotte. You look at this from a playoff situational perspective. Toronto most likely out of it. Charlotte definitely out of it. They are 44 games out of first place. I want to say they're like 30 or 20 something games out of even making the play. And so obviously this game doesn't really have much importance behind it. Toronto's going to be favored because, Charlotte's on the back-to-back, which makes a little bit of sense. Toronto's a few days of rest. They're coming off of a nice win against Brooklyn. I do think Toronto at home here probably stands for a little bit more, but they're super injured too. I mean, Barnes and Pirtle are questionable. I don't imagine that they'll need to play. Maybe they will. But then you have Agbaji, Ingram, Shed, and Walter all already listed as out. So this is probably going to be a quickly an Barrett type show, if anything. So maybe there's some like first half lines or some same game parlay. We can knock their lines down because who else is going to score the ball? And them being 10-point favorites, someone's going to have to. So that could be something that I kind of get behind. But to me, it's going to be Toronto or nothing in this one. I could easily see Toronto being, I would want to see Barnes and or Pirtle, maybe one of the two in there. But this could be a spot for a slimy parlay piece because I do think Charlotte stands really no chance. But even me saying that out loud is kind of crazy, right? It's like, why don't they stand a chance? You think Toronto really cares about this game? They shouldn't, and I doubt they do, but I think Charlotte just cares even less, which is crazy to say out loud. You throw in the fact that Charlotte is super injured, so any of the injuries that we mentioned for Toronto, more injuries on the Charlotte side of things, makes a little bit of sense, right? So, yeah, that's where I'm going to kind of lean. I would probably take another peek at a Charlotte team total under. I think that was great. A great call last night. We bought an extra point, didn't need to. Charlotte on back-to-backs this season in their games, they've hit the over in just 28% of their games. So they've hit the under in 72% of their games when they're on back-to-backs. Right now, you can get their team total. I want to say it was less than last night. Let me see if I can get the updated line for you guys before we do move on. But yeah, right now you can get under 105.5. I don't necessarily mind that. Under 104.5, don't mind that. Under 105.5 probably be what we look at. In terms of head against Toronto, they have kind of crushed them, but in terms of this year, I guess recently, back in late March, so pretty recently, right? 328, 108-97 win for Toronto. So yeah, very, very good game. And if you look at the road games for Charlotte against Toronto dating back to last season, 99, 106, and 97. So the only one that they've won would be they won on the hook, you know what I mean? And then even this year, when on the road on back-to-backs, they've only averaged 103.8 points per game. On back-to-backs in general, 105. So this could be a look for us here today. We'd be paying probably a little bit of juice because that normal line's more of 104.5, but I don't mind the idea of maybe Toronto, maybe that's some sort of a parlay. Toronto money line and Charlotte team total bumped up a little bit. That could be a play. And like I said, player props maybe quickly or Barrett, but some of these games that don't matter, I don't really want to have too much going on. All right, Dallas taking on the Lakers. In terms of injuries, Luka, no injury designation right now. Rui Hachimura could be back. LeBron, Reeves, they should be good to go. Only Bronny and Maxi Kleber listed as out right now. And Anthony Davis listed as probable. So I guess that is good news there in terms of the Lakers coming off of that loss yesterday to OKC. Dallas coming off of, a few losses. They've played the Clippers 2 times in a row, and that was, 3 days ago, right? They've had like 3 days off. They lost both of those. Being 3.5-point dogs here, I do think is telling that, at least the books think that this game's going to be a little bit closer than maybe one would imagine. But ultimately, I think that this is a game that the Lakers do, win and care about. You could make the argument that the Mavericks are going to care about it because they do have a chance to bump to the 9 seed from the 10, but I don't necessarily think that they're going to get beat out by the Suns and lose their play-in spot. So Mavs are sitting there thinking, okay, we're a play-in team. Whereas the Lakers are 1 game back of that whole debauchery and whatnot that's going on in mayhem in the 4 through 8 seed. So the Lakers want this one, I would assume, and one should assume, I would say. So I don't mind the Lakers. Right now, moneyline minus 160 isn't like the craziest thing to think about as long as they get all of their guys to play in this one. So yeah, maybe that's a minus 158 on FanDuel. I know that's a big time price tag, but to me, these guys should want to play, right? And we saw, Luka play 30 minutes yesterday. LeBron played like 35. I know they're on a back-to-back, but in a game like this, when every win's going to count, especially after a loss, I expect them to play pretty hard. So, yeah, I don't mind the idea of Lakers maybe on the money line. In terms of what we have from a total perspective, the Lakers defense has looked good at times, but I think we're starting to see what their defense is, right? Good teams are scoring on them. Now, I don't want to talk about the first game against OKC because OKC just stunk it up. But yesterday, OKC bounces back and scores almost 140. Golden State recently scored 123 on them. Memphis scored 127. So any team that, maybe does decide to run, which Dallas has been running and has some sort of a talent, they look like they can score on them. Now, the question really becomes, is Dallas a good team, or are they the type of team that the Lakers can definitely kind of swallow up defensively? Pause. And we've seen so far this year the latter. 97 points. I think the Lakers scored, so it was a low-scoring game. Dallas, I want to say, scored 110, which isn't all that high. And then the next game was a 107-99 game that the Lakers won, and that was February 25th, so just over a month ago. I like the idea of an under in this one. I think the Lakers defense will show up, and for what it's worth, the Lakers will need to play some decent defense down low, which they definitely have the capability of doing. But if Anthony Davis plays and Derek Lively's good to go, maybe Dallas is able to score. So I would prioritize Lakers money line before considering something like the total in general. In terms of where I'd go player prop wise, I do think Anthony Davis is kind of game changer-esque enough in this spot to be a thing that kind of keeps this Dallas team engaged. So I'd look at Anthony Davis if he gets the play. And I also don't mind, this is kind of a weird one, but I don't mind Spencer Dinwiddie here over his rebounds plus assists. Right now it's at 9.5. He's been hitting that in assists at some point, a decent amount as well. And he's been getting the minutes too, especially with, all of the injuries that we've seen. So I like the idea of Spencer Dinwiddie today over 9.5 assists, 9.5 rebounds plus assists. I could see both of those as individual looks as well, if I'm being honest. Overall, I mean, this Lakers team, in terms of, allowing to the point guard position, they're allowing a ton of assists, not necessarily the most amount of rebounds, but the Lakers have been chucking in terms of threes. They've turned into a three-point team, which is why I want to include the rebounds, because he's been getting a decent amount of rebounds. And if you know anything about basketball, or if you don't know, let me educate you. When you're playing a team that shoots a lot of threes, there's a lot more rebound opportunities for the guards out there. Next up, we have Miami taking on Chicago. In terms of the injury report here, it's pretty crazy for mainly Chicago, but Miami, Andrew Wiggins listed as questionable. And then the entire starting lineup, minus Buzelis, is listed as questionable for Chicago. So you have Giddey, we have Kobe White, Kevin Huerter, Vucevic, all of these guys listed as questionable, which isn't all that surprising with them coming off of a back-to-back game in which they lost by, 12 points to Cleveland. Miami coming off of a win against Philadelphia. If Andrew Wiggins plays, I see Miami being in a much better spot for this one. But this is going to be a good game. The reason we have a mid, game total and a 1.5 point spread is because these two teams have the exact same record as one another in the 9 and 10 spot in the play-in here, and they're only a game out of the 8th spot. So they're a play-in team, we know that, but 9 or 8 versus 10 could be a pretty big difference, right? So I do think that that's worth considering. Chicago's been playing well. They've been playing hard. Miami's kind of in the exact same boat. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. The deal breaker for me in terms of the side that we want to look at is the fact that Miami has the better defense, and we've seen Chicago at times just struggle offensively in a sense. And if they struggle offensively, I think this one's over because they don't have the defense that Miami does to be able to win a game via defense. So I like Miami. This would probably be a Miami money line spot for me. As weird as it is to put it on Wiggins, I do really think that Andrew Wiggins is a big piece to this one, because being able to stop Chicago from shooting well or prevent them from shooting well is going to take all of the defensive guys that they can on the Miami side of things. And Wiggins, when you have Burks and Hero out there, Wiggins obviously a big piece in that. Like, he'll get the Kobe White or the Kevin Huerter, maybe even Buzelis or Giddey. Like, there's a lot of guys that he could be switched onto in terms of covering. So yeah, I do think that this could be a big deal here. We just saw this matchup. What was it? I want to say it was like a month ago, and the Bulls won that one by 5. That was in Miami. You have a fresh sort of revenge narrative too for Miami, right? So give me Miami in this spot. In terms of what we have from a total, I will give the Bulls credit that they are going to run. They're going to run, and then if their defense is that bad, Miami should be able to score. Correct? So I'm going to lean slightly towards the over 227 in this one as well. Now, from a player prop perspective, gone back and forth on a few of them because, again, I feel like it's tough to peg who on this Miami team is going to have a good game. but I think Kevin Huerter on the Bulls side of things could be in a decent situation just based on this team and how Miami plays really good defense, like transition, pretty good. Kevin Huerter comes off the handoff, pretty good. Those are two ways that he likes to score, but the spot up being the biggest one here, and it's like, well, if he's going to get his spot up opportunities, Miami isn't the greatest defense. They're bottom half in the league in terms of truly preventing that perimeter D. That's why I think Wiggins is going to be huge, because if he doesn't play, I probably look right at something like Kevin Huerter, either his over 11.5 points or 2.5 threes for plus like 130. So that's a player prop I'd look at. I wanted to consider something down low like Bam or Khalil Ware for Miami, but I couldn't really get there either. So Herter's going to be the guy that this kind of hinges on, especially given any sort of new information of how the players play out from injuries. This could be a good look. Portland taking on Utah. This one does not have much of my attention. Neither one of these teams going to be playoff teams. In terms of injuries, we have Simons, Denny Advia, Jeremy Grant out. Denny Advia and Simons questionable, by the way. Then we have Ayton, Grant, and Henderson all listed as out. On the other side of things, no John Collins, no Harkless, no Kessler, no Markkanen, no KJ Martin. Isaiah Collier is questionable. So this is just one where I would picture a bunch of, no names kind of running around and trying to play. The defense will probably be lacking with no Grant, no Advia too. So I'm going to lean towards the over, and then screw it. Give me Utah at home. But again, I'm not going to be focusing too much on this game today. Whereas this one definitely could catch my eye. You have Denver taking on Sacramento. Denver has won all 4 of the meetings and covered in 2 of the 3 meetings against Sacramento this year, but 2 of those games they played in Denver. Denver just fired their coach. I feel like a lot of times after, you fire your coach, there is a brief period where you kind of get pumped up and get going and excited. And Denver needs that right now. This team is bleeding out. They were the 3 seed at one point. They're now the 5 seed, and they are the 5 seed, but they have the exact same record as the 4 seed Clippers, the 6 seed Warriors, the 7 seed Grizzlies, and they just have one more win and one fewer loss than the 8 seed Timberwolves. So this game is massive for the Nuggets. You're probably like, well, then why aren't they like -7.5? Well, 1, they've been playing terrible basketball. And 2, this game kind of matters for the Kings as well. They can potentially stay out of the 10 seed. They should be trying hard, which they have been. And they've won 3 straight games, including a win as a 10-point dog in Cleveland. I do think a flat spot is coming for Sacramento, which is weird because usually I'm back in Sacramento because I like the color purple, I guess. But they played 6 straight road games against, Orlando, Indiana, Washington, Charlotte, fine, but then Cleveland, Detroit. They beat Cleveland and Detroit. Now they come back home against a Denver team who is now on the road, and I think this one road game, and then they travel back and play against Memphis, which is another important game. But Denver has lost 7 of their last 10. They've lost 4 straight games, 1 to Minnesota, 1 to Golden State, teams they can't afford to be giving wins to. I think Denver comes into this one fired up and ready to go and just almost like we need to win this game type of mindset. So give me Denver. I'm probably going to look at them either on the money line or I'll just take the -3.5. The Sacramento team is obviously a good team, but Denver can fight with them and compete with them down low for sure. And I think Denver has somewhat of a ability to score from the perimeter. That's not necessarily their focus, and they don't necessarily have the guys that are great 3-point shooters, but in terms of, Christian Brown, Murray, if Murray is good to go, I think we're still waiting on him. But even if he doesn't play, you have Brown, Porter, Jokic that can shoot. I think that we could see, because that's where you can really get Sacramento kind of from the perimeter. So I'm not saying Denver will do that, but they almost have that option against Sacramento more so than they do against other teams. But yeah, I think it's a big spot for Denver. I will declare this. If Denver can't pull this one out, if they're not able to, secure a win in a game in which I think that they match up very well, I mean, they've shown they match up very well against the squad. If they can't take this one, then I'm gonna sit here and probably say, yeah, I'm kind of looking at a potential DNB graveyard headstone for Denver heading into the playoffs. But I don't think it's all that crazy. This is a really weird spot, or weird situation, the fact that they have just closed out the year this poorly. Maybe it was the coach. There's rumors about he wanted to play the veterans over the young guys. That seems like a way to win close games and playoff games. I don't know, man. Denver in this one, total-wise, your guess is as good as mine. I'd like to think that Denver slows things down, but their defense really hasn't been all that great, so I'll slightly lean towards the over for that reason. But Denver's going to be a look, at least for, I would say, maybe an alternate line or something like that. 3.5 is a little dicey, but if we can get it down to like 1.5, win by a bucket, go do that, Denver. All right, Golden State taking on San Antonio. We can kind of move through this one fairly quickly. We do have Golden State on a back-to-back, right? They blew out the Suns yesterday. In terms of guys that played, Steph only played like 25 minutes. Draymond, 20 minutes. Jimmy Butler, 19. So they didn't necessarily need all their guys. San Antonio coming off of a back-to-back loss against LA. In terms of these two teams in back-to-back situations here, Golden State is covered in 54% of their back-to-back games. San Antonio just 40%. So that's why they're these massive favorites. I could see them somewhat being in the slimy money line parlay, or maybe just, knocking them down to -4.5, something like that today. Because Golden State is in the middle of that chaos too in the West, and we haven't had our best luck trying to pinpoint that situation, but at some point these teams just are going to be in can't lose situations, and the Warriors kind of in that spot. I mean, I'm not sure that they're concerned with moving back, but that 3 seed, the fact that it's still attainable is crazy. So give me the Warriors, and I would say their team total over. I don't know how much I love the Spurs to contribute because the Warriors have a good defense, but I like the Warriors and a team total over probably in this one. Suns taking on OKC. We just talked about the Suns. Golden State annihilated them yesterday, and OKC is coming off of what I would say a comfortable win against the Lakers. They got their get back, right? This OKC team is still playing hard, obviously, via last night, playing hard down the stretch. That being said, they're not exactly the best team on back-to-backs. One of their weak spots this year, 46% cover rate, but they're playing the Suns, who are crazily injured. Kevin Durant may be back in the lineup. I think that would be a little bit of a spark, but ultimately it's still probably an OKC spot, right? Like if you're telling me we can get Golden State -2.5, OKC -2.5 in some sort of a weird parlay, and we wouldn't take that, I think that could be a fair look. So OKC, I don't love the 9.5. I doubt that I lay that big number. We've been kind of afraid of laying big numbers, this late in the year, rightfully so. But if Kevin Durant doesn't play, then there's no chance that this Suns team should really compete, because again, OKC is giving a middle finger to people, being like, we're the 1 seed, we're comfortable, we're still playing really, really hard. In terms of a total, kind of like we just talked about with the Golden State and San Antonio, I like OKC's team total over. I would say that they're probably going to, have a little bit lack thereof of defense being on a back-to-back, so maybe that contributes to more possessions. I just don't trust the Suns to be the, I guess an efficient offense, right, against a good defense. So OKC, I'd eliminate some variables. Just look at an OKC team total over in that one. Now, from a player prop perspective, we did have one. Let's see what we got here. If we can pull it up. It was, do we have one? Maybe, oh, wait. Oh, I have Shea's over rebounds and assists. I would say, obviously being on a back-to-back, maybe he's a little bit more pass-heavy today. Yesterday he scored, 42 points in 37 minutes or so. But he still even hit hit a decent amount of assists. I think he had, 12 rebounds plus assists yesterday. So cash that one. And today his line's at 11.5. For plus money, you can get 10.5 for normal odds. So I like that. Him against the Suns here in the past, looking okay as well this year, or last time he played, 8 rebounds, 5 assists to the point guard position. This Suns team is actually looking pretty decent against points, which is kind of why I pivot to points plus assists, but their team is all out of whack. But in terms of season-long numbers, 9th best in terms of points plus assists. But we've seen Shea even torch them offensively, so I can't sit here and be like, oh, they're going to stifle him and he's going to have to pass. That helps my argument. I don't know how applicable it fully is, but I still do like him over 10.5 rebounds plus assists. Last game on the board here, Clippers taking on Houston. Houston should be pretty cozy in that 2 seed. The Clippers should not be cozy as the 4 seed. They have a chance at getting the 3 seed, and they're also tied with all those other teams. I know I've said that and say it all the time, but that is a massive situation going on in the West right now. Clippers 8.5 point favorites makes a lot of sense, right? I think we're going to be missing Van Vliet in this one, missing Jabari Smith, and potentially missing Alpi Sengun as well. Kawhi Leonard should be coming back. You do have the Clippers on, a back-to-back here. We talked about them. They beat San Antonio, and their guys did play a decent amount of minutes, Their starters, other than, I guess you could say, Chris Dunn and Derek Jones, nearly played 40 minutes. But Kawhi coming back, I would say, is a decent boost to this squad, especially if this is going to be a low-scoring game, which it's at 218.5. I like the Clippers. 8.5 is the line. I know it says 7.5 on our graphic, but Clippers should be able to be the better team, especially with those injuries or guys sitting out when it comes to defense as well as offense today. And they're one of the teams that can compete with Houston on the glass. And with some of the bigs being out for Houston, I expect the Clippers to be able to have, almost an edge on the glass. So, yeah, this is a spot for the Clippers to me. Maybe we can knock that down and throw it in some sort of a parlay, but I don't even mind the 7.5 if that line is still out there in general. I think this could be, at minimum, like a 7-point win for the Clips. They aren't a back-to-back. Like I said, that is worth noting. So if you feel some type of way about that, sure. And this Houston team is playing good basketball, including beating OKC and Golden State back-to-back. Sure, but again, remember the injuries I mentioned. 3 of their, top guys, definitely 2 of their top guys. So, yeah, I'm going to lean towards the under because I trust both defenses, even with some of the injuries, as well as the Clippers. And then Kawhi, I kind of like his player props in this spot, but we'll see if he does end up playing. But guys, it's going to wrap for today's show. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment 30 if you made it this far. And like I said, it's kind of like a good test because I love seeing the usernames that do, because we're at such a weird point in the NBA season. Those of you that are actually hearing this and choosing to spend the half hour with me when half the games aren't really worth looking at and that type of thing, I really do appreciate it. You are a real one. That's why we make the videos, and that's why our videos are longer than a lot of people's, because we love to share our thoughts, talk about it, talk it in and out. Sometimes I say some stupid crap, but you know what? It is what it is. I think that we have some great videos personally, and I think that if you guys are rocking with it for 30-plus minutes, you'd agree. So comment 30, let me know you made it this far. Really do appreciate it. Catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.